Imagine two tiny ones, spaceship, no more small car each, which now they are flying in absolute darkness and cold, where the temperature drops to 270 degrees. They are so far from home that the signal from it takes them more than 22 hours to reach Earth. This is further than you can imagine. Further than any man ever has gone since something created by himself hands. And you know what's the scariest thing? They die slowly, but inevitably. Their nuclear batteries are running out of steam. Engineers NASA is turning off its instruments one by one, trying to win a few more months' life. Perhaps in just a couple of years, the two travelers will remain silent forever, and no one will ever hear them again. Voice. But what they managed to tell for almost 50 years of its incredible travel turned everything upside down ideas about the boundaries of the solar systems. And the strangest thing is, they discovered something there that scientists, we didn't expect to see this at all. The story began in the late 70s, when the world was completely different. Disk still did not die. The Soviet Union sent stations to Venus, and the Americans, we were just experiencing the end of the program Apollo. There was a group of engineers sitting at NASA and scientists who understood one simple thing. Fate gave them a chance that occurs once every almost 200 years. 4 giant planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, lined up in such a way that the spacecraft could have flown past all 4 using gravity, each one like a giant slingshot. Such the alignment occurs once every 176 years. Skip it, and the next chance will appear only in the middle of the 21st century. Your great-grandchildren will already be old. In the summer 77th, from the Cosmodrome to the Messier Canaveral, 2 rockets roared into the sky, Titan Centaur. On their tops sat 2 practically identical devices in size, with a small car, stuffed electronics, and scientific instruments. Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 are twins created for a 5-year mission to Jupiter, and Saturn engineers calculated for 5 years that this would be enough. They had no idea that they launched the longest-lived space mission in history, humanity. But they were cunning, very cunning. They built into these devices so many duplicate systems and backups mechanisms that they could survive almost all. 8 main engines and 8 spare, 11 scientific instruments with backups, and most importantly, radioisotope thermoelectric plutonium-238 powered generators. This thing generates electricity from heat, decaying radioactive isotope. No solar panels, which are useless in the distant darkness space. Clean nuclear energy, which will work for decades. And you know what? Those brilliant engineers were right. The Voyagers swept past Jupiter, revealing active volcanoes on its moon Io. The first active volcanoes outside the Earth. They captured Saturn's rings with this detail that astronomers still are studying these pictures. They showed us uranium lying on its side, as if someone once upon a time, a very long time ago, I kicked him hard. And finally, dark blue Neptune, with its large dark spot and winds, rushing at a speed of 2,000 km/h, the fastest winds in the solar system. In 4 years, they completed the entire program, but that was just the beginning, because the engineers looked at trajectories of the probes, looked at indicators of their systems and said, you know what? Let's continue. We'll send them where no one has flown before, 1 man-made object per edge solar system, into interstellar space. In the early 80s, when Voyager 1 completed its planetary program, the last order for him cameras began to take 1 photo, 1 single frame that changed the way we look at ourselves. The device turned around and aimed the lens back to where I came from and photographed the Earth from a distance of 6 billion km. This picture shows our planet, a blue dot smaller than a pixel, lost in a ray of sunlight which accidentally got into the frame. Pale blue dot. Carl Sagan, the great popularizer of science, looked, I wrote the words on this picture, which still gives me goosebumps. Look at that dot again. This is here. This is home. This is us. Everyone you love, everyone you know, everything about have you ever heard. Everyone ever the existing person lived his life on it. After this camera shot on both Voyagers were disabled permanently. Energy had to be saved for more important tasks. There was a real unknown. But what does it even mean? Go beyond the solar system? Where does this line go? You think, well, I flew past Pluto. That's it. You're in interstellar space. Ah, if only everything were that simple. In fact, our solar system is not just planets revolving around stars. It's a giant bubble that the sun blows a stream around itself charged particles, solar wind. Imagine a spaceship flying through the ocean at supersonic speed and creating ahead of itself a huge shock wave. About the same, the sun rushes through the interstellar medium, pushing her away with his powerful stream particles and creating a protective shield around itself, a cocoon called the heliosphere. And this heliosphere extends incredibly far, much further than orbit of all the planets. To get out of it, the Voyagers had to cross 3 areas that scientists only knew about from theoretical models. I wasn't there. The first was thermal shock. Wave where the solar wind flying from its supersonic speed crashes into interstellar wind and breaks sharply. Imagine a collision of 2 powerful streams of water. That's roughly what it is. It looks like this, only instead of water, there are streams, charged particles. Behind the shockwave, the heliolayer begins. The zone where slow solar wind accumulates becomes denser and hot as a cork in a bottle. And for heliolayer heliopause, the last boundary between the domains of our sun and real interstellar space. But, and this is not the end, because even for heliopause of the solar system continues. Far, far away, on at a distance of almost a light year from the Oort cloud floats above the sun. Giant a sphere of billions of icy comets, surrounding our entire system as invisible shell. Voyager 1 will reach the inner edge of this cloud is approximately in 300 years and will leave it finally after 30,000 years. Think about these numbers, 30,000 years. But let's go back to what happened when probes began their journey through heliolayer. And this is where it all began interesting. Scientists thought they knew what to expect. They had beautiful computer models, articles, theories. The sun rotates, its magnetic field is spinning. At the boundary of the heliosphere there should be a more or less even border. Everything is logical, everything is predictable. And then Voyagers started sending data, which didn't fit into any at all models. Do you know what they discovered? Magnetic bubbles. Thousands of magnetic bubbles about the size of the Earth, floating in the heliolayer, like foam in bath. The solar magnetic field, which rotates in opposite directions at the north and south poles, creates heliospheric current sheet at the equator. Something like a giant wavy skirt ballerinas. When this layer reaches shockwave, it compresses and waves overlap each other to form these crazy magnetic bubbles. The boundary of the heliosphere turned out to be not smooth a wall, but a seething, foaming one substance. Scientists had to rewrite your models completely. In the summer of 2012, an event occurred, which humanity has been waiting for 35 years. Voyager 1, traveling at 540 million kilometers per year, is 3.6 astronomical units per year for those who love accuracy, crossed the heliopause. The first human-made object left the heliosphere and entered the interstellar space. At a distance of 120 astronomical units from the Sun, this is approximately 120 times farther than from Earth to the Sun. The numbers are so huge that the brain refuses to perceive them. It's easier to say it this way. If you were flying on the fast passenger plane, it would take more than 1,000 years to get to where Voyager 1 is now. Well, this is what really blew my mind, scientists. When the probe crossed the border, the instruments recorded a sharp jump. Plasma density is 80 times higher than it was inside the heliosphere. Space detector. The rays went off the charts. Everything indicated that, yes, this is it. We have entered interstellar space. Space. But something strange happened. Or rather, not what had to happen happened. Magnetometer, a device that measures magnetic fields, did not show at all no changes. 0 zeros. The magnetic field remained the same as was inside the heliosphere. And this was a complete surprise, because theoretical models predicted that in interstellar space, where magnetic fields of other stars dominate, the orientation of the magnetic field must change. But it hasn't changed at all. NASA was so confused that for a whole year I couldn't decide whether to announce it. It's official that Voyager 1 is real, went beyond the heliosphere for a whole year, disputes, data checks, revisions theories. It wasn't until 2013 that they finally admitted, yes, we did it. Humanity left for the first time heliosphere. But that's not all. History repeated itself. Years later. At the end of 2018, Voyager 2, flying a little slower than his brother, only 490 million km per year, 2 crossed the magical boundary. Second, a man-made device entered interstellar space. And the same thing happened again. Density plasma has increased sharply. Cosmic rays went off the scale, but the magnetic field remained the same. And then scientists realized that it's not a matter of chance, not a breakdown devices. Something in their understanding interstellar space was at the root wrong. But the most amazing thing, it wasn't even that. Look what happened. Voyager 1 crossed the border in 2012 at a distance of 120 astronomical units from the Sun. 6 years have passed. During this time, the Sun has passed more than half of its 11-year cycle of activity. When Voyager 2 approached the border, the Sun was at the peak of activity, spewing out the most powerful streams of solar wind. Models predicted that the heliosphere had to expand, become bigger, like a balloon that is stronger. They're inflating it. So, Voyager 2 had to cross the border further from the Sun than his brother. It's logical. Absolutely logical and absolutely wrong. Voyager 2 crossed heliopause at exactly the same distance, 120 astronomical units, exactly like Voyager 1.6 years ago. The border in general didn't move. Another model has gone into the trash. One textbook needs to be rewritten. What? What's going on? Why isn't everything as it should be? Predicted theories. Scientists began put forward new hypotheses, one bolder another. One of the most interesting sounds almost like science fiction. Perhaps our Sun was born billions of years ago in a very specific place, in a hot place, highly ionized region after the explosion of one or more supernova. And maybe magnetic turbulence, left over from those ancient cataclysms, has not yet dissipated. Maybe we're still living in an echo explosions that occurred when dinosaurs have not yet appeared on Earth. And this echo creates such a heliopause around magnetic porridge that there is complete chaos, their chaos. Magnetic fields twist and intertwine into unpredictable patterns. That's why the Voyagers didn't see anything clear changes in magnetic orientation. We just ended up in an area where there are magnetic fields so mixed that it is difficult to distinguish any one direction is impossible. Perhaps if the probes had flown further, they would eventually get out of this turbulent zone and, finally, would have recorded a change in magnetic fields. Perhaps, but we will never. We'll find out, because their devices will turn off earlier. You know what the saddest part of this whole story? Voyagers, they are slowly dying. They are running out energy. Plutonium-238 in their generators is falling apart, and every year less and less is produced electricity. NASA engineers, for several months, they take painful deciding which device to turn off next. In 2007, the heaters were turned off on Voyager 2 to save energy, and the devices started to freeze. Then some scientific instruments were turned off, then a few more. It's a matter of looking at it as an old friend dies, and to understand that you can't help. Engineers squeezing the last drops out of the probe's life. They even turned on the backup engines that were not used 37 years, and lo and behold, they started working after almost 4 decades of inactivity in the vacuum of space. But this is just delaying the inevitable. Maybe in 2025, maybe a little later, but very soon the Voyagers will finally go silent. The last signal, the last squeak radio transmitter, and that's it. 22 hours later, this signal will come to Earth, and the operator's D-Pace network will be seen on screen's live line. Silence. And this silence will be last forever. But even after they fall silent, Voyagers will continue their journey. They will fly through the void, cold and dead, but still rushing forward with at the speed they were given gravitational slingshots of giant planets. Almost 50 years ago, approximately 40,000 years, can you imagine? 40,000. Voyager 1 will pass by the star with a long catalogue number AC +793888 in the constellation Giraffe. Nobody remembers this. Constellation, it is dim and unremarkable. But that's where the first messenger flies humanity. And Voyager 2, in about the same amount of time, will float in 1.5 light years from the star Ross 248. Through 296,000 in a few years, it will pass 4 light years away from Sirius, the brightest star in our night sky. Think about these temporary scale. 296,000 years. When Voyager 2 will fly by past Sirius, the Earth may no longer be, will be. Humanity will either disappear long ago, either disperse throughout the galaxy, or will turn into something that we can't imagine. Maybe ours descendants will encounter these ancient probes somewhere in the depths of space, and they will be surprised. Were our ancestors really like that? So primitive? Are they really sent these tiny ones into space metal boxes with plutonium batteries? But there is one thing on board every one Voyager, which says that we were not just primitive apes with rockets. On the outside of each, a gold plate is installed on the probe diameter 30 centimeters. Gilded copper disc protected by an aluminum case. The lid has instructions engraved on it. Diagram of how to play this record recorded on a universal, the language of mathematics and physics. Because, if anyone ever finds these probes, he must understand what is inside. Our inside is humanity's attempt to tell about myself. 115 images, photographs of the Earth from space, DNA structure, mathematical definitions, people of different paradise of cultures, animals, plants, buildings, diagrams of our solar system, sounds, lands, surf on the ocean shore, thunder, birds singing, wolves howling, laughter child, mother and daughter, kiss. Yes, they even wrote this down. Greetings on 55 languages from ancient Akkadian to modern Chinese. Brief message from the Secretary General, the UN, and music. God, what music they make. They recorded Bach, Beethoven, Mozart there. A classic of European civilization, but not only. Indian raga, Japanese music for which African drums, pan flutes from Peru, Aboriginal songs Australia, Chuck Berry's, his Johnny Bigud. The first rock and roll sent to stars, jazz music by Louis Armstrong, blues, folk songs from different continents. This was an attempt to say, here we are different. We sing for thousands languages, but we all have one little difference, blue planet, and we wanted to get to you, reach out. Carl Sagan, who supervised the creation of these gold records, once said, launching this ballistic bottle with a message in the cosmic ocean suggest that humanity hopes and tries hard to survive. Perhaps no one won't find the record. Space is huge, and chance that someone will accidentally run into an object the size of a car, flying through the abysses between the stars, microscopically small. These disks are rather in all. They will drift in the dark billions of years until they burn out the atmosphere of some planet, or not, will fall into some star. But the fact is that we sent them, that we tried. This is the most important thing. We, tiny ones creatures on a tiny planet, found in give yourself the courage to reach out infinity and say, hello, we are here. We existed. Please, remember us. And you know what's surprising? That this mission even exists, took place. Think about it. In the end, 70s for development and the construction of 2 Voyagers took about $900 million at that time. It was the Cold War era, the race weapons, economic crises. It is possible this money could have been spent on 1,000 other things. But humanity chose to launch 2 probes to the stars, chose to spend years to develop devices that will be able to work for decades in conditions where any other device would fall apart in a few years. Chose to create gold records with a message for aliens, though the probability of their detection tends to 0. It was an act of pure, insane hope. Hope that we are not alone. The hope that someday someone will hear our message. Hope that humanity will survive its wars, crises, and disasters, and will exist long enough to wait for an answer. And this mission gave us more than just scientific data. Yes, we learned about magnetic bubbles in Helios layer. Yes, we found that the boundary heliosphere is not where we thought, and leads themselves differently than the models predicted. We discovered volcanoes on Io and saw rings Saturn, learned about strange magnetic fields in interstellar space. But the most important discovery of the Voyagers is that famous pale blue photo points, because he made millions of people to look at their planet from sides and understand how fragile it is, how connected we all are to each other, how stupid it is to fight and hate this tiny stone lost in Besna. Sagan wrote, "There is no better demonstrations of stupid human self-conceit than this distant image, our tiny world." I think he emphasizes our responsibility, it is our duty to be kinder to each other and take care of the pale blue dot, the only home we'll ever have. When is the last signal from the Voyagers will shut up, and this will happen very soon. Soon it will be the end of an era, the first real interstellar mission of humanity. But this will not be the end, our path to the stars, because therein new missions are already under development. The Project Breakthrough Starshot plans send tiny probes to Calphi Centauri at a rate of 20% from the speed of light. They will be able to get there in just 20 years instead of thousands. NASA is developing new concepts of interstellar spacecraft. Private companies are building huge rockets, capable of launching payloads weighing hundreds of tons. Humanity only begins its journey outward beyond cradle, and when future generations will rush to the stars on ships, which we cannot even imagine, they will remember these 2 little ones probes launched in the 1970s centuries by people who believed in impossible. Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 will continue their endless drive through the galaxy, through 1 million years, in 1 billion years. Perhaps even after ours, the sun will swell into a red giant and will swallow the Earth. These 2 tiny, the devices will still be flying somewhere there, in the darkness between the stars. Silent, cold, dead, but still bearing golden messages from long-vanished civilization that I once looked at the stars and dreamed reached them. And if after billions of years some unknown creature to us by chance will stumble upon one of these probes, will extract the gold plate and decipher its instructions and play it, it will hear sounds of a long-dead world. He will hear the voices of people greeting in tongues, which no one remembers anymore. They will hear music of a civilization that no longer exists. And maybe this creature will think, they were so small, so fragile, lived on such a tiny planet. But they tried. They stretched out hand through the abyss of time and space. They wanted their remembered. And this means that while these records exist, as long as they are carried through space, we are immortal. Memory of humanity will outlive the Earth itself, and this is perhaps the greatest achievement of our kind. We sent a piece of ourselves to the stars, and now, no matter what happens with us, this particle will exist forever.